Arman Khan was one of the richest men in the city. Owner of the largest company, he lived in palaces that looked more like castles, traveled in luxury cars, and his name appeared in every newspaper and television headline. People spoke of his success with admiration and envy. But behind all that wealth and fame, Arman carried a loneliness that no one saw. People loved him only for his money, respected him for his power, and surrounded him for their own benefit. Not a single soul seemed to care for the man himself. One afternoon, after an exhausting business meeting, Arman felt a sudden sharp pain in his chest while driving back. Alarmed, his driver immediately looked for help. The nearest city hospital was far away, so the driver rushed him to a small rural clinic in a nearby village. The clinic was nothing compared to the grand hospitals Arman was used to. It was a small building with broken chairs, a wooden desk, 2 old fans moving slowly, and just a handful of staff, 1 compounder and a couple of nurses. Yet that was the only place where Arman's collapsing body could be carried. He fainted on the clinic floor, and panic spread among the villagers and the staff. His expensive clothes and luxury watch gave away that he was someone important. Some whispered, "Isn't he that famous businessman? The billionaire?" But among them was one nurse, Mare, who did not recognize him at all. For her, he was just another patient who needed help. Without hesitation, she lifted his head, gave him water, arranged medicine, and spoke softly. "Don't worry, everything will be fine." When Arman slowly opened his eyes, the first face he saw was Mare's. There was a strange calmness in her eyes, a comfort he had never seen even in the most expensive private hospitals. And unlike everyone else in his life, she wasn't trying to impress him, flatter him, or bow before his wealth. To her, he was just a man in pain. The simplicity of the rural clinic. The place was shockingly simple compared to the glittering world Arman belonged to. No modern machines, no polished halls, no doctors in expensive suits. Just a few ordinary people working hard with whatever little resources they had. Yet, the way they treated their patients, especially Mare, amazed him. There was no greed, no rush, no arrogance. They worked sincerely, as if service was their only mission. For 2 full days, Arman stayed at the clinic under treatment. And throughout those days, Mare looked after him tirelessly. She gave him medicine on time, served him food with care, and sometimes just sat by his bed talking in her gentle voice. Arman, curious, asked her one evening, "Do you know who I am?" Mare smiled and replied, "Yes, you're my patient. That's all I need to know." That answer pierced through his heart like no other. For the first time in his life, he felt like someone was seeing him not as a millionaire, or a business tycoon, but simply as a human being. A change in the millionaire's heart. The longer Arman stayed, the more he noticed Mare's life. She lived with her mother and younger brother in a small house. Her salary was modest, barely enough to manage household expenses, yet she never complained. She smiled through her struggles, and she dedicated herself wholeheartedly to caring for patients. One evening, as they sat near the clinic window, Arman asked, "Mare, don't you dream of a bigger life? A big city, a luxurious home, fancy clothes?" Mare laughed softly, shaking her head. "A big house or a small one, it doesn't matter. If the heart isn't at peace, what's the use? What I want is peace, not fame or wealth." Her words struck him deeper than any business lecture he had ever heard. Arman thought, "All my life I chased money, power, fame, and yet, I never found peace. And here is this simple nurse, with nothing much, but she glows with the contentment I've been searching for." He realized that his heart was changing. He wasn't just impressed, he was falling in love. The truth revealed. Soon, Arman's health improved, and the time came for him to leave. The staff already knew his identity, whispering about his riches and influence. But Mare remained completely unaware, still treating him like any other patient. The day before his departure, Arman said gently, "Mare, I've hidden something from you. I'm not just an ordinary patient." She looked at him with surprise. "What do you mean?" Taking a deep breath, he said, "I am Arman Khan, the businessman you may have heard about in the news." Silence filled the room. Then, after a pause, Mare simply smiled and replied, "So what? For me, you were the man who needed medicine, water, and comfort. Rich or poor, that doesn't change anything." Her words melted the walls around his heart. For the first time in years, he felt free. He realized he had finally met someone who valued him not for what he owned, but for who he was. Back to the city, Armin returned to his city life. The glittering parties, the endless meetings, the luxury cars waiting outside his mansion. But now, none of it gave him joy. The laughter of the rich sounded hollow, the applause of his partners felt fake, and even the grand halls of his home echoed emptiness. In his mind, he saw only one image, Mare's calm smile and her words about peace. A few days later, he could no longer resist. He drove back to that same rural clinic. Mare was startled to see him again. "You?" she asked, astonished. "I thought you must have forgotten this place." Armin shook his head and spoke with determination. "No, Mare, I can never forget this place, and I can never forget you. I came to tell you something important. I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Your honesty, your simplicity, your kindness, they've changed me. Will you walk with me through life?" Mare lowered her gaze, hesitant. "But I'm just a simple nurse. I don't belong in your world." Armin stepped closer, his voice firm yet tender. "My world has changed. I don't want the world I had. I want peace, and that peace lives with you. My heart has already chosen a new beginning." Not long after, Armin and Mare were married. He didn't drag her into the hollow lifestyle of the city's elite. Instead, he chose to spend more and more time in the village, building something meaningful. Armin donated generously to improve the rural clinic, adding new machines, better facilities, and more staff. But he always reminded Mare, "This money isn't for pride. It's for service. You taught me that true wealth is in helping people." Together, they created a place where villagers could receive proper treatment, and Armin finally discovered the peace that had escaped him all his life. The man who once ruled boardrooms now found happiness in watching patients smile, in sharing tea with villagers, and in walking beside the woman who had seen him not as a millionaire, but as a man in need. The lesson: this story is not just about romance. It is a reminder. Happiness doesn't lie in wealth, cars, or mansions. True happiness lives in sincerity, in kindness, and in the love of people who value us for who we are, not for what we own.